Oh, hello. Hello, hello. Why? There we go. Okay. Let's get that on too. Let's start that. Yeah, let's do that. I'm in a new place. Look at me. I'm in a new place here. Ugh. I hate the lighting on my laptop. It's fine. It's fine. Had good lighting last week for my live office hours last week. I had great lighting last week, and then could not recreate that this week, despite 15 minutes of trying and like setting up all the lights and doing like basically what I think is exactly the same setup as I did last week, and yet no, could not get the same setup going. So here I am, different room, just like facing a window, like right on. So gonna try with the natural light and see how that goes. I need an office with like lights and all the things, right? That's what I need. It's coming. It's coming. My office is coming. Ooh, boy, oh boy. Good times. And I don't even know. Yeah, so it's different lighting in here. And also, it's my laptop. My iPad lighting is like, chef's kiss. Chef's kiss. Laptop lighting is like, the worst. Why are you so bad? Okay, I'm gonna start switching things up here. I'm gonna start going on my iPad for my anyway. This is why I'm late today, by the way. It's just trying to find lighting. So annoying. Okay. Let's move that over just a little. Let's get that a little that way. It's fine. I'm fine. It's fine. Okay, friends. Here we are. My name is Dr. Shannon Coates, and I am not in a place where I can close the doors so that I can't hear people coming up and down my stairs. I also have people home from school and checking the front door for boxes. Oh my gosh. Don't let the cat out. Okay, thanks, bud. So professional. Hey, did you know that I have kids? I have kids. And they're home today. They are. So professional. Okay, it's all good. So my friends, yeah, my name is Dr. Shannon Coates, and I'm coming to you live. Obviously, it is live. I am live. I am coming to you live from north of Toronto, here in Canada, here in Ontario, Canada. And these are the traditional lands of the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, the Mississauga, and the Wendat-Gwinnett peoples. And I am here today, subject of today's live office hours. This is part of what I do. I do courses and classes and resources especially for independent voice teachers. And one of the classes that is coming up is a 2-hour. It used to be 90 minutes, but then I was like, oh, by the way, let's just stay for this extra 20 minutes. So because we're not finished yet, and so I've just embraced the fact that 90 minutes isn't enough, and so it's 2 hours. 2-hour class on child voice, which is on Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, and then the following Wednesday at 10 o'clock my time, which is Eastern time, adolescent and expanding voice, or expanding and adolescent voice. So if you work with children or with teenagers or with the in-betweens, then you may want to take a look at that. Take a look at those classes. The registration links are live. And so one of the things that and if you can't come to the live class, you will have access to the recording for 21 days. So, win-win, all the wins. Especially for folks, I get folks asking all the time. Folks are like, it's 2 a.m. where I am, so I'm not going to get up. I'm like, that's fair. You can access the recording. It's all good. So take a look at the recording if you're not able to be there live. That's totally fine. And if you are able to be there live, take a look at the recording and do a review. That's totally fine too. Okay. So can you hear the construction that's going on in the back of my house too? Can you hear that? Amazing. All right, here we go. Because that's the other thing. My mic it doesn't talk to my laptop anymore for some reason. Actually, I think it's my laptop. My laptop doesn't talk to my mic. I'm actually just annoyed with my laptop in general. Okay, let's stop it. Let's stop. Let's stop. Let's get to what we're talking about today. So what we're talking about today, we're talking about, I did a post 2 days ago, I think, on Wednesday, about some of the most common ways that we can injure or not do right by especially our child singers. And this is obviously, all of these things are also applicable to, I can also see like this big glare in my glasses, dang. Here, let's do this. Okay, there we go. That's better. Now there's no glare. All of these things that we're talking about today are also obviously applicable to all ages within the studio. Maybe not obviously, but, oh good, I'm glad it sounds fine. Thanks. So all of the things we're talking about today, not just applicable to child voice, but certainly applicable to adolescent expanding voice and all of the students that we work with. But often we think there's this kind of little thing inside of us where we're taught to, or we expect, that when we're working with the child voice, that children don't have the same kind of, we don't have to give them the same kind of agency that we would give to a teenager or an adult singer. So often we kind of do things with children, when we're teaching children, in our pedagogy, that we wouldn't necessarily do with older singers. And so I just wanted to have a little conversation about that today, kind of talk about that today. And some of the things that I put up about, some of the ways that we are taught to work with child singers and some of the things that we are taught to do, I wanted to just make sure we're thinking about them and perhaps changing what we're doing. So one of the things that that I talked about was, or one of the ways that we can damage child singers and all of our singers, but certainly child singers, is by choosing all of their rep for them. So again, this isn't necessarily something that we would do with an older teen or an adult. We likely wouldn't choose all of an adult's rep, unless there's some kind of extenuating circumstance, but we likely wouldn't even think to do that. However, with children, often we're like, yeah, I'll just go in there and I'll choose all the best rep for them. I'll choose all of the good stuff for them. Now, that's not to say that we don't have a responsibility to ensure that the repertoire that our students of all ages are singing is going to work for their voice and is going to be, blah, blah, blah. Of course we have a responsibility to ensure that singers are singing things that works for their voice. However, we often take that responsibility way too far without thinking about it, right? Where we take that responsibility and we say I know what's best for this voice. And we do this especially with child singers, where we're like, I'm the expert, and so I know what is good for this voice and for this child. And this also gets caught up with child voice a little bit with often young singers haven't been exposed to different kinds of music, and so there may be, we also have a responsibility, I think, to introduce other kinds of styles and repertoire to all of our students, and especially to young singers who maybe haven't had an introduction or haven't been exposed to other kinds of musics. So I think we do have that responsibility, right? It gets caught up in that, and it gets caught up in the fact that there is repertoire that we prefer often, that young singers, we don't need a 7-year-old to be talking about their love life, there is definitely text out there that young singers perhaps are not going to be able to engage with. That's fine. So, or that it's going to be really super uncomfortable to see them. If they do engage with, it's going to be super uncomfortable, right? We don't necessarily need that. So sometimes when we're working with young singers, we definitely kind of land on this side of I should choose all of their repertoire for them. But here's the problem. when we choose, first of all, when we make the decisions for the children in our studio, and for all of the singers we work with, but for the children we're working with in the studio, we teach them that they don't have agency. We teach them by saying that I'm going to do all of the things for you. I'm going to choose all of the repertoire, and I know everything about your voice and for what you're going to want to sing and for what's good for you to sing. We teach them that they don't have agency and that they don't get to make mistake along the way, or that they don't get to explore what they like, right? We teach them that we know all the things and they know none of the things. It's very easy to teach a child this. It's very easy for children to pick up from the way that we work with them that they don't know what's best for their voice, and they don't know their own voice, or that it's not possible for them to know, perhaps is a better way to put it. It's not possible for them to learn what's good for their voice. It's not possible for them to know what repertoire they're going to love to sing, right? We kind of teach them that. So how do we go about both taking seriously our responsibility to open some doors, perhaps, to repertoire and styles. This goes along with styles too, to repertoire and styles that perhaps a young singer would not come across if they were not taking voice lessons. So how do we open those doors at the same time, and take that responsibility seriously, at the same time as teaching the child that they have agency and that they can learn what they love to sing and what's great for their voice? How do we do those things at the same time? Oh yeah, Wendy says, I like to give them about 3 songs to listen to if they need ideas, and ask them to listen to them and then tell me which ones they like. Yes, so it's all about choice, right? It really does come down to choice. So that is one way to do it, right? Where in that case, we're still kind of choosing the rep for them, right? So we're giving them some choice within, and with very young singers, that may be the best way to go about it, where we say like, here are 3 songs, take them and listen to them and see what you tell me what you like, and what you want to sing. Certainly that may be one way to do it. I would suggest that you can actually go even farther. You can send folks to websites that have lists of lots of different kinds of songs and lots of different kinds of repertoire. There are lots of sites out there that are specifically, and I'm talking young children right now, I'm talking sort of 5 to 10-ish. So I'm talking relatively young children. So there are sites that you can send them to say like, take a look at all of this repertoire or all of these songs. You can take a look at what they're listening to, right? So you can say to them, hey, who's your favorite artist? Who do you listen to regularly? What do you love? Who do your parents listen to? Because that may be, they may also like who their parents listen to. You never know, because that's what they're introduced to. So you can get input from the child directly, right? You absolutely can get input from the child directly. What are you listening to? Who do you love? You can also send them to do a little bit of research with their parents and say like, hey, I would love for you to go and look at Matilda the musical. I would love for you to look at 13. I would love for you to look at some of these, what's the other? Anyway, there are a bunch of them. 13 might not be exactly the right one for young singers, but Matilda and other musicals like that, where you can say, not Annie, I mean, you can send them to see Annie, but Annie's old. It's old. But like, there's lots of contemporary musicals where you can say, hey, go take a look at, I would love for you to come back and tell me which of the songs in this musical you love, or can you find 3 musicals, like just Google them and see if you can find 3 musicals that you love, if they're not, with characters that are your age, or around your age, with children that you love. This is the other problem with being in this room. I'm like right close to the kitchen and there's no door. So, hear all the sounds. Hey baby! Anyway. Anywho, so there are lots and lots of ways. Disney works, yes, exactly. So you can say, hey, what's your favorite Disney movie? What's your favorite? Who are the characters that you listen to? What are the songs that you listen to? Disney movie and Disney musicals, of course. And then go into pop and rock and ask, what's your favorite pop rock? What's your favorite, like, who are you listening to? And then you can jump off of there. And if you notice some themes, so you can also go from like, good. What are your favorite themes, right? So if you notice that you're working with a child and their favorite, in terms of choosing repertoire and opening doors for them. So, sorry, I scrolled a little bit there. Coming back to the idea of opening doors and exposing other styles and other repertoire that they might not be exposed to or might not know about if they weren't working with you. Another way to do that without imposing repertoire, without saying you've got to do this, you have to sing this, and taking away agency. Another way to do that is to take a look at the stuff that they do love. Yes, the theme, exactly. So take a look at the stuff that they do love, see, and also the subjects and the kinds of things that they're really into outside of your singing lessons. So there may be a character on TV, there may be a sport or an activity, they may be super into drawing, they may be super into like something else that they're super into outside of voice lessons. If you can find a theme or something that they're really interested in, then you can go repertoire searching, and you can then look at maybe the Royal Conservatory music list if you feel it's important that they are introduced to something that is a little bit more out of the rock pop or out of the music theater line. So you can then take a look at some of the other repertoire and find songs that are along the same subject line, right? That have references. Adventure Time, yes, I love Adventure Time. What she's saying, like some TV shows have great music. Yes, Julie and the Phantoms, exactly. There are some TV shows that have terrific music in them. So those are shows that you can, if they're super into a show, download the theme music, figure it out. You can do it, or get someone, and as Joe was saying, a lot of those shows actually have terrific music as part of their just within the shows. So you can find repertoire that they're, and then again we're giving choices, but we're saying, hey, I noticed that you loved XYZ. I found this song. Read the lyrics first. Let me read you the lyrics and see whether you like it, and then we'll play it a couple times, and let's just see whether you like it or not. If you like it, terrific. Let's put it into the mix. Tangled, yes, the series, yeah. There are a ton of those kinds of ways in, if you will, to repertoire, where we're not just going through a syllabus, an RCM syllabus, or we're not just taking our, child voice song list and like going down and checking them off. And then imposing them on the singer, right? We teach the singer that the things that they are interested in and the things that they love are important, and that they can then take those things from those other areas of their lives and put them into singing. And then that's going to inform their singing. They can make great choices about repertoire within their singing. Yes, 100%. So they can make great choices about repertoire. They can learn how to make great choices about repertoire for themselves without us imposing on them. So that's one thing about repertoire choices. And of course, this applies to all of our students. However, we often take that choice away from young singers especially. We often do. And let me tell you, all of the things that I had listed in the post, that we're going to go through each one of them, but all of those things that I listed in that post, those are all things that either I experienced myself, that I have done to students. Absolutely, I have, out of the goodness of my heart, right? Good intentions, where do good intentions get us? Because I want to choose the right repertoire for the singer, and I want to make sure the singer is singing the best thing and the right thing, right? It's not right for them if they hate it. It's not right for them if they didn't get a choice. It's not right. That's not right. And also because, I've also included all of these things in this list of things I'm going to talk about because I've worked with like a million singers and voice teachers who have also had these things happen to them in the voice studio. So these are all things that, right? Yeah, thanks, Rhonda. Yeah, like these are all things that have happened in the voice studio. So that's why I'm talking about them. The other thing is when we choose styles for our students, and I think here in Canada, we might have a little bit more of a, and maybe in some other parts of the world where we have a conservatory system. And the Conservatory System, the Royal Conservatory of Music, and the Canadian Conservatory, Conservatory Canada, can never remember which order that is, but that system, we all kind of grew up with that system. It's been around for a very long time. And they have these graduated syllabi and exams and all that stuff. And there are some very good things that are part of the conservatory system. I am not anti-conservatory system by any stretch. There's some very good things that are part of that system. However, with a very big caveat here is that what happens often, especially here in Canada, I think, is that we as teachers see that conservatory system as the best, right? And we see that that one true way again, and we see that syllabus as having all of the good repertoire, all of the best choices in it. So then we kind of tend to like say, okay, you're going to do level 3, and so here are the songs that you have to sing from level 3. Well, there are ways to work with singers so that we're not taking away their agency, right? We can do that. So, and also, so that kind of went into style as well. And so what happens when we're working with a conservatory system, for example, is we get real style specific real quick, right? So we start to say to singers, oh, you have to sing in this very specific style, which just so happens to be Western classical. I mean, the conservatory system also has some contemporary repertoire choices. I'm sorry, conservatory friends, but those are not very contemporary. Even the music theater choices are like really old. So, yeah. So, and we know this, but what ends up happening if we're using that system exclusively, especially with a student who is not interested in singing in that style, is that we impose that on our students, we impose that style on our students, rather than opening the door to it, right? So we want to open the door to the style and see whether they love it or not, right? Rather than impose the style. We want people to come in, if we want Western classical singing to flourish, and if we don't want singers coming through Western classical degrees and being really frustrated at the end of their degree that they didn't get a chance, that they only ever learned how to sing Western classical, and really what they wanted to do was jazz, or what they wanted to do was rock, or what they wanted to do was music theater, then we've got to stop imposing Western classical style in our singing lessons. Yes, we do. Yes. And I've said this before, if you are someone who only wants to teach Western classical music styles, that's perfectly fine. You make that decision about your studio. Please make that decision about your studio. If you don't like rock, I don't want you to teach rock. Please make that decision, and then market yourself that way, and be honest with the students who are coming into your studio, right? And then the folks who want to sing music theater, who you don't want to teach, who you're going to now try to impose Western classical on, send them to someone who loves teaching music theater. Please, for the love of God, do that. Please, please. Don't impose styles on students, okay? Give them choices. Open doors. Give them choices. Okay, give them agency. All right, some of the other things that we do. Yes, so we do a first then. We use first then directives, and I did have a couple of questions about that in, thanks Sarah, I did have a couple of questions about that on the socials about what is first then. So a first then directive is a way that we tend to work. We do this in parenting. In fact, I don't know how I don't know. I think there are still educational institutions who are telling ECE and classroom educators to do things this way as well. But the first then directive is where we say, we use something that the student wants to do as a carrot or motivation for them to do the thing that we want them to do, or the thing that we think is best, right? So, for example, an example of this, we do this with repertoire, we do this with styles, and we do this with behavior in the studio, right? So we do this with behavior in the studio. One way we do that with behavior in the studio is we say, okay, if you can be, I don't know, if you can do the next 4 exercises without, I don't know, and stand perfectly still for the next 4 exercises, then I'll let you do some rhythmic exercises with your body. What they want to do is the rhythmic exercises with their body. Or what they want to do is like lie on the couch. Or what they want to do is run around. I don't know, whatever the behavior is that you're trying to curb, right? So you're like, okay, if you do this, then you can do this. So if you do the thing that I want you to do, that I think is important, then you get to do the thing you want to do. And we do this with repertoire all the time. The example I always use is like, if you learn Caro Mio Ben, which hopefully we're not teaching that to like 5 to 10-year-olds, but whatever, I'll use it as an example. If you learn Caro Mio Ben, then I'll let you learn Let It Go, or whatever, right? We do this all the time. If you do this thing, then I'll let you do this thing. So this is the thing you really want to do, and this is the thing I think you should do. This is the thing that I want to impose on you, and this is the thing you really want to do. If you do this thing, I'll let you do this thing, right? So this is this is problematic in young children. This is not necessarily as problematic. I've talked about this before in other aspects, but this isn't necessarily as problematic when we're working with adults who you can kind of make a deal with them, right? Where they're cognizant that they're making the choice to do something because they also value the thing, right? So they're like, oh yeah, I really want to learn blah, blah, blah. But I know that if I learn this one first, it's going to help me with this one. And then you're like, okay, so let's learn this one first and then we can learn this one, right? Yeah, so like that's a conversation or a dialogue, and those are parameters that you have set up with a consenting adult who is, who's part of the process. But we very rarely are able to do this with children and have them part of the process, right? So usually the way that this turns out with children is we are imposing something that we want on them by using the thing that they want as the motivation. So how do we not do this? What are some other ways to not do this? First of all, look at the thing that they want and make that, well, okay, no. First of all, the very first thing, figure out whether the thing that you think is so important that you need to manipulate a child to get them to do is actually that important. Figure out that first, right? So as soon as you have the impetus to do an if-then directive, think to yourself, hey, is this if actually, like, is this thing that I want them to do actually that important that I need to manipulate this kid into doing it by taking away the thing or delaying the thing that they love and that they actually want to do? Is it actually that important? So that's the first thing. Figure out whether what you want is actually that important. And we're going to talk about a few things later about things that aren't actually maybe that important, even though we somehow think they are. For example, repertoire. Again, back to repertoire. Or styles, right? Maybe it's not actually that important. Maybe it's not so important for a child to learn a classical song that you need to resort to manipulating the child to do it. Is it actually that important? No, it's not. I wish you were one of my colleagues, and you have so many thoughts that are not stuck in old harmful ways of teaching. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yes. We I think this is the process of teaching in our time, is that we're able to, and especially again, the process of the fact that I work almost exclusively with independent voice teachers just means that we have the luxury, we have the ability, we have the, it's in our best interests to change, to really examine the things that are brought down to us, right? Like that, or that we've just kind of accepted, right? We have, that's within our, within our power to change, so we can. Sometimes the folks in institutions, they are not, the motivation to change that thing isn't as strong, and there isn't as much, like, I've got my job, and if I change something, or if I go against what the system says, or I go against the sort of wisdom of the system, I may not have my job anymore, or whatever, right? So there's a little bit of motivational there. How do you feel or handle parents who want you to teach them certain songs or styles? Yeah, that's a great question, Wendy. The 5 seconds. I'm going to come back to if there's something so important that you think the student needs to do. Yeah, yeah, dealing with that right now, yeah. Take a look at the carrot that you first of all, like I said, determine whether it actually is that important. Secondly, take a look at the carrot that you're about to use and figure out how to incorporate the carrot, or the thing that the student loves doing and wants to do, figure out how to incorporate that into the thing that you think is so important that they do. Yes, right? So if I come back to my, you can learn Let It Go if you learn Caro Mio Ben. If we come back to that, what's one thing we can do? We can learn Let It Go, and then we can play with styles. We can be like, let's learn Let It Go, and now let's pretend we're an opera singer. Now let's pretend we're a country singer. Now let's pretend we're a rock star. Now let's pretend we are Santa Claus. Now let's pretend, you can teach Western classical styles. You don't have to do it by teaching Western classical songs. It's true. It's so true. Do it by play. Do the thing that they want to do and figure out how to get the thing in there that you want them to learn. Of course, if you're, first of all, making sure that it is something that is actually important. So then with Let It Go or whatever, again, I'm just using these as examples here, but so then with something like Let It Go, you're like, okay, let's pretend we're opera singers. And now can I do that? Can I hear Let It Go with all lip trills? And now can I hear Let It Go with all pretend you're an Italian opera singer? And now can I hear, right? And then you could be like, do you want to hear an actual opera singer song? Do you want to hear an opera singer an actual opera singer opera song? I got it. I got there eventually. And then there's your way in. There's your introduction into that repertoire or that style, if that's super important to you, right? And you did it not by imposing and not by taking away the thing that they want. Don't take away the thing they want. Give them the thing they want. You're better than that. You can be a better teacher. You can figure this out. I pinky swear. Use some creativity. You've got resources. You're the adult in this situation. Why are you manipulating children to get what you want? Don't do it. Stop that. Okay. So this kind of feeds right into stand still and pay attention, which is something that sometimes we will also oh, Wendy. Yeah, okay, I'll come back to that in a minute. Which is something that we will also use an if then for, or sorry, a this first, no, what's it, what? First then. Sometimes we'll use a first then directive with students around behavior like standing still and paying attention. So if there are things that you think are that you would consider to be the thing that indicates to you that a student is paying attention, first of all, examine that, because we have been passed down a lot of information about what constitutes paying attention, and a lot of that information is incorrect. We are finding that out now. And so there are lots of students out there who pay attention by fidgeting. There are lots of students out there who pay attention by closing their eyes. There are lots of students out there, people pay attention and learn in lots of different ways. And it just does not look like standing still and staring at you the whole time. Very few people, in fact, actually, that's not actually a thing for most of us. But we learn to kind of suppress the things that are actually going to help us pay attention well. And we learn that as children. We learn that really well. And we learn that through, if you stand still and pay attention for the next 15 minutes, then you can go on the bouncy ball. Y'all, why can't they go on the bouncy ball from the beginning? They can do the whole lesson sitting on a bouncy ball, on a yoga ball. They can do the whole lesson playing with fidget toys. They can do it. This doesn't affect their ability to pay attention. What affects their ability to pay attention, in many cases, is when they're trying really hard to do what you ask them to do. So I'm going to try really hard to stare directly at you and keep my body still, and then you'll know that I'm paying attention. But all I'm thinking about is staring straight at you and keeping my body still. I'm not actually able to listen to anything you're saying because I'm working so hard to keep my body still and stand up tall and pay attention. Give them the option to do whatever it is that they want to do to pay attention. I'm on a tear. One of my best singers would never have survived a lesson. My expectations were stand still. It's true, especially for children. Y'all, why are we forcing children to stand still and pay attention? Why? Where did these ideas come from? Where did these ideas come from? Children are not made to stand still and pay attention. Some of them are. I shouldn't say that. Some of them are. Some folks, some children. And some of them have learned to do that, for sure. And then the vast majority of children would much prefer to do anything other than stand still and stare at you in order to be able to pay attention well. So that's something that we impose on children, and that can be really damaging, actually. Yeah, so let's not do that. What's the next one on here? So one of the things that can be very damaging, and that I know lots of singers and voice teachers today who were not allowed to take voice lessons because they come from the patriarchy. I know. Right? I know. I'm gonna, yeah. And from our old, gosh. Okay. So I did ask the question, so yes, I agree. So we, sorry, let me just, yeah. We are still dealing with the repercussions in people's singing lives of being told that they couldn't and shouldn't take voice lessons before they were 13 years old because it would ruin their voice or they would hurt themselves. So we are still people in my age, other generations, still dealing with the repercussions of being told that they can't do voice lessons because they're too young and they're going to hurt themselves. So what does that say? When you say to a singer, you're too young to take voice lessons and you're going to hurt yourself, what does that say to a singer? First of all, it puts the fear of God in them, or in some of them anyway, about sorry, maybe not the fear of God. It can create some fear around. So I'm singing all the time out, I sing on the playground, I sing with my friends, I sing in my room, I sing along with the TV, I sing, I'm sorry, Rhonda, I know lots and lots of people have heard this their whole lives, right? And lots of voice teachers say this too, because we've just kind of taken it on. So I sing along with the TV, I sing along with the radio, How old am I? Sing along with. Anyway, like, and so this like 6-year-old and possibly their parent is going, oh, they could hurt themselves from singing and taking singing lessons, but they're singing all the time. Uh-oh. Is it possible they could hurt themselves? So it puts this fear into singers and then into parents and singers. And then it also puts this like thing into singers, like I'm sure some of you, I said to myself, wait, I don't think that makes sense. Yes, exactly. Only in the last couple of years, right? I know, we don't question it. Well, we're children and our parents weren't musical experts. Like my parents weren't experts, so they didn't know. Yeah, like they started me at singing lessons when I was 13 years old now, and I was the youngest student in my teacher's studio. Like, she only took me because my voice was like pretty well developed for my age, or maybe I was 12 when I started. Oh yeah, I turned 13 when I started. I was just turning 13. Like, yeah. So the other thing that does is that says to me as a child, when I hear that says to me, this thing that I really love to do and this thing that I really want to pursue and I really want to like, get good at, and this thing that I want to develop so I can be even better at it, this thing is off limits to me. There's something wrong with what I want. Ooh, ouch, ooh, ouch, ooh, ouch. Is that really what we want to say to children who want to sing? No, it is not. So if you are a teacher who believes that, okay, can I say to you, first of all, please do a little more research and talk to the folks who are teaching young singers. It's just not true. It's just not true. But if you do believe that, can I please ask you to, rather than say to parents, oh, they shouldn't be taking voice lessons because they're going to hurt themselves, they're too young, say to parents, I don't teach that age. I've chosen to teach this age and above. And here are some teachers you can go to who do teach that age. That way, you're not scarring children. You are saying to children and their parents, yes, singing is wonderful, and I'm so happy that your child or that you want to take voice lessons to get better at it. Absolutely, it's wonderful. And here's someone who's going to help you. Just shut your mouth around the whole, like, it's bad for you. Just shush. Just stop that. You're damaging children. Stop it. All right. Yeah, if you don't really oh, yes. Here's one. I'll only teach this child on the condition that they take piano lessons or they join a choir. So they should be in a children's choir because they can't, I can't really teach them real voice lessons at this age. So at this is transitioning over from the belief that it's harmful for children to take voice lessons at that age to the belief that children won't get anything out of voice lessons, right? Because they're too young. Not because it's going to be harmful, but because it's not going to be a good use of their time and not going to be a good use of your time, right? So instead, you say to a student and their parents, you say, or to a child and their parents, you say something like, well, you should take piano lessons because then you're going to learn to read music and, you're going to have a better foundation. And then, come back when you're a little bit older so that you're going to get something out of your voice lessons. Or you should take choir. Or you have to do piano with voice lessons so that you're going to get the most out of your voice lessons. Or you have to take choir with voice lessons so you can get the most out of your voice lessons. So, first of all, why are we putting up barriers to children taking voice lessons? Why are we putting up barriers to children learning how to sing? What? Are you even a voice teacher? Do you even love singing? I don't even, how? Why? Why are you putting up a barrier to someone learning to sing? Why? I know why. because we do this out of the goodness of our hearts, right? Or out of our best intentions, or what we perceive to be our best intentions. We're like, well, if they're going to get the most out of this lesson if they also take piano lessons, or if they're also in choir, and then they're going to, when they're in the voice lesson, then they're going to know their theory better, and they're going to have a better sense of like harmony and blah, blah, blah. They're going to have all this other stuff, right? So yes, but that's not a prerequisite to having a good voice lesson. Like, yes, it may enhance the voice lesson experience, but sometimes when I hear teachers say that, I feel like the reason they're saying that is because they don't want to do the work to teach the child how to read music. Or they don't. So again, this comes back to, if you are someone who only wants to work with children who are also taking piano lessons and or who are also in choirs, that's fine. That's totally fine. Don't make it a thing that is like, you get to decide that. That's perfectly fine. But don't make it a thing where it's the onus, where you're putting up a barrier for people to take voice lessons. Make it a thing where you say, hey, in my voice studio, let's do it like, in my voice studio, the way that I love to work is, and I love to recommend so-and-so piano studio. And I'd love for you to take piano lessons at the same time, because I have found that this is the best way to like work together to get the most out of your singing lessons. And if they're not able to do that, also, there's a certain level of like, that's a big assumption that a family, first of all, is able to afford to take like piano and voice lessons. I mean, that's a big assumption. It's also a big assumption that piano lessons are necessary for voice lessons. Like, that's a big assumption. Check that out. See where that's coming from. But like I said, if you want to make that a thing for your voice studio, great. Put that up front. Put it right at the front and say like, I love working with singers who are also taking piano lessons and or who are in choir, because I love the way that like synergy works and blah, blah, blah. Great, put that up there. And then have references, please, to the voice teachers in your area or online who don't care whether you're taking piano lessons or not, who are not going to put that requirement into the lessons. Yeah? Yeah. So you can see how imposing this barrier, or how imposing something that we feel like should be a good thing, can actually create a barrier to someone taking voice lessons, and can actually create damage. But we can do it the other way too, right? Where we can say, hey, I love working with singers who, do this, this, and this. Terrific. If you're not that singer, great. Here's a voice teacher who loves working with singers who aren't taking piano lessons. And there are lots of voice teachers out there who do piano and voice. And if you're someone who does piano and voice, and you think that it's super important that folks do piano as well as voice, then work it into your voice lessons. Use the full voice workbooks to teach music. I mean, you can do it. You can do it. And if you think that children should be in choirs, start a choir in your studio or in your town. Then let everybody who is in your studio be in the choir. Like, don't make this a thing where it's a barrier for people to take voice lessons, okay? Okay, don't do that. I think that was the last thing that I wanted to talk about. Yeah, stand still. Singing at this age will hurt your voice. Condition of taking piano and voice lessons. Blah, blah, blah. Choosing repertoire, determining style, first, then directives. Yes, so we talked about all of those things. All of the little things that I posted about 2 days ago. And we talked about some ways to not do those things. And to think your way through why am I doing some of those things. I hope that was useful. I hope you have a terrific weekend. I hope that if you are teaching children and you want some more information, some teaching, that this was useful, and that if you are teaching children and you want some more information about the anatomy and physiology of the child voice, which is what we're going to be talking about on Wednesday. We'll be talking about the physiological, like what's actually happening in the body, and things like why you may not actually see expansion in the body on an inhalation in a child body. There's a physiological reason for that. Their little rib cages and lungs are actually a different shape. So like you may not see the same kind of expansion that you would expect to see in a teenager. And if you're looking for that same kind of expansion, you're probably going to get something real funky. You're probably going to teach something that you don't want to teach. So that's what we're going to be talking about. Things like that on the 2nd. So if you are available and interested, I hope you will join me then. All the links are on my website. Take good care. Have a terrific weekend. Let's get out of this one. Boop.